Okay, let's dive right into this. Today we're unpacking a psychological reality that's, well, it's pretty heavy but absolutely fascinating. Psychology tells us a brutal truth. You see, some children don't lose their childhood suddenly in this dramatic flash. It's not a movie. Instead, they just outgrow it quietly. Nobody sits them down and says, hey, you're an adult now. They just wake up one day and realize someone's got to be the responsible one in the room, and I guess it's going to be me. It's a profound shift. And really understanding it, it can completely change how you view yourself, or honestly, those highly capable people in your life.
You weren't born strong or capable. You became strong because there was no other option. We totally have this societal myth, right? This idea that early independence in kids is just natural maturity. We pat them on the head and praise them for being an old soul. But if you actually grew up this way, you know the real story. Early independence isn't some virtue you were just handed at birth. Your nervous system literally saw it as an absolute necessity because there was a profound lack of safety. It wasn't a choice, it was a completely logical adaptation to the environment you were stuck in.
Part 1. Defining the parentified child.
So in a lot of traumatic or unpredictable environments, the standard family dynamics get completely flipped upside down. The clinical term for this is parentification. And we're not just talking about, doing chores early or taking out the trash. This is a profound survival mechanism. A child is basically forced to manage heavy emotions, whether that means deeply suppressing their own or actively managing the volatile emotions of the adults around them. And they're doing this way before their brain is developmentally ready to handle that kind of weight. Because of this, the child becomes the emotional caretaker. Their young brain gets aggressively trained to believe a super dangerous lie, that their own feelings have to come last. That blueprint, it sticks around for decades. It's exactly why so many adults feel deep guilt or a crippling sense of accountability whenever anyone else in the room is upset.
Part 2. Survival mode in adulthood. And this brilliantly illustrates how childhood survival strategies absolutely do not just vanish the second you turn 18. One of the most exhausting traits that carries over is hypervigilance. Think of it like this. When a child grows up in an unpredictable environment, their brain essentially installs a high-powered emotional radar system. A quick biological fact for you, this actually causes the amygdala, which is your brain's threat detection center, to become physically more reactive. You learn to relentlessly, constantly scan the room for any signs of emotional danger.
So what does that actually look like? It means sensing subtle tone changes, spotting microexpressions, or just feeling a weird energy shift in a room before anyone even opens their mouth. A lot of adults who experience parentification think, oh, I just have great intuition or I've got high emotional intelligence. But here's the absolute crucial point. This isn't just natural intuition. It is a vital, sharply honed survival skill that just never fully turned off. You learn to read the room because back then, getting it wrong had real consequences.
Which brings us to our next trait, defensive self-reliance. I want you to imagine a scenario where emotional support is completely inconsistent. Sometimes it's there, but most of the time, it's nowhere to be found. So what does a developing brain do with that? It trains the child to just stop asking for help, to stop expecting comfort. It's just mathematically safer to rely on yourself than to trust a support system that might vanish into thin air.
On the outside, these individuals look incredibly composed. I mean, they are the rock. They're the problem solvers everyone runs to during a crisis. But on the inside, they struggle deeply to trust temporary support. They'll automatically choose to handle every single problem alone because leaning on someone else, that just feels way too vulnerable.
So why does calm feel so dangerous? It's a heavy question, isn't it? I mean, logically, if you finally get everything handled, shouldn't you feel good? Shouldn't you feel relaxed?
Well, the answer lies in what psychology calls the uneasy rest phenomenon. This is a profound chronic stress adaptation. Think about it. If things were perfectly quiet in childhood, it usually didn't mean peace. Actually, scratch that. It never meant peace. It meant the storm was gathering. It meant something was about to go horribly wrong. Because of that deeply wired association, the nervous system stays on high alert, even in beautiful, genuinely peaceful moments. Adults with this background feel deeply, intensely uneasy doing absolutely nothing. In fact, they usually only feel useful or safe when they're actively needed or solving a crisis. Their body literally forgot how to relax, because, simply put, it was never safe to do so.
Part 3. The burden of split maturity.
When emotional development is severely and really unnaturally rushed, you develop what's called split maturity. On one hand, you've got parts of this person that are incredibly wise, serious, and highly responsible. But running directly parallel to that, their core emotional needs remain completely unmet and unfulfilled. This creates a terrible internal friction. It leads to what psychologists actually call a guilt for needing attachment. Basically, just wanting support feels like you're burdening someone else. You literally find yourself apologizing just for wanting someone to care, and actually receiving comfort, it feels totally foreign, like you completely don't deserve it.
Part 4. Empathy and Hidden Pain.
Look, there are profound social costs to growing up too fast. Surviving a parentified childhood sharply hones your social cognition and empathy to basically superhuman levels. We call this guarded empathy. People who grew up this way, they understand suffering on a profound level, and they can comfort others totally effortlessly. But, and this is the real tragic flip side, they view their own emotions as an inconvenience. They learned so early on that their feelings were ignored or worse, treated as a problem, so they simply carry their own weight in silence. They intimately know the extreme cost of caring without protection, so they keep their own hearts heavily guarded while they're busy fixing everybody else's.
Part 5. Permission to finally rest. If you're recognizing yourself in this today, I want to completely reframe this entire explainer for you right now. Psychology does not look at these traits and call you broken. Absolutely not. It recognizes that your nervous system adapted brilliantly to immense pressure at a very early age, you learned responsibility before safety, and you learned strength before softness. Those intense adult behaviors, the hypervigilance, the defensive self-reliance, that uneasy rest, they aren't flaws. They are brilliant, albeit outdated, childhood survival skills. You did exactly what you had to do to survive the environment you were handed, and it is absolutely vital to validate that resilience.
The ultimate takeaway here is so profound. Healing doesn't mean becoming weak. It means learning that you are finally allowed to rest. You no longer have to be the strong one forever. Letting go of that armor doesn't undo your resilience. Actually, it honors the fact that you survived and that you finally made it to a place of safety.
So I'll leave you with this. Are you still carrying the weight of a childhood you never got to have? Think about the traits we've covered today. Which of these hit closest to home for you? Was it the hypervigilance, the defensive self-reliance, or maybe that uneasy rest? Take a moment to really reflect on that. And hey, if this explainer helped bring some clarity to your story, make sure to subscribe. We are committed to bringing you more truthful, structured psychological explainers just like this one. Thanks so much for learning with me today.